Hey everyone, Crisis here. In this video, I thought to provide a follow-up to my prior one all about how, yes, Nightwing does beat Batman. So give that a watch if you haven't yet. I'm going to be updating it, talking about any new evidence that might provide even more insight as to who would win a versus match. But I will also be taking a much more broader perspective, looking at various other attributes that define the characters, such as their detective abilities, tactics, comparing and contrasting their application of prep time, leadership, etc. If you enjoy these kind of analysis about your favorite fictional characters, comic books, video games, check out my other videos and subscribe for more. It should be fairly obvious that, given that the first video covered almost 100 years of history, there's going to be a lot less to say this time in terms of who would win. But lately, we actually did learn something that pretty much proves everything I said in the first video even more. Dick Grayson, shortly after becoming Robin in the last Halloween #7, outright got the better of Batman while they were sparring. This being after the young Ward had been shot 6 weeks prior, yet he was still able to rebound and get the better of the Dark Knight. Couple this with the definitive history of the Dark Knight from 2022, calling Robin an equal crime fighter to Batman, an equal partner, and official merchandise going as far to say Robin was equally as feared as Batman, which, considering their very different color schemes and costumes, that says a lot. Peter Tomasi, a very influential comic writer, when brought on board to the Nightwing book in 2008, stated that Nightwing was a millimeter off from Batman in every single facet. Remember that Nightwing constantly improves. Case in point, this is before his ascension into the role of Batman, where then in the New 52 he stated to be better than ever, and then again and again multiple times after that. Keep this statement in mind as well when I talk about the other qualities of these crime fighters. When it comes to detective abilities, ingenuity, preparation, according to one of the more influential writers, Nightwing was only a millimeter off from the Dark Knight many years ago relative to his evolution. In the very recent Night Fight #2, which sees Batman fighting a future version of Dick Grayson, who has since become Batman. Now, it's worth noting that it's not fair to scale this alternate future version of a character to their main self, because we simply don't know what advancements or even regressions might have taken place. Alternate universes can present infinite possibilities after all. However, Scott Snyder, who helped co-plan this storyline, did say that in the case of Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne, this is 100% what would happen if their current continuity selves became Batman and were Batman for a long while. That being said, for what it's worth, this Dick Grayson Batman, far older than his current main continuity self, does just defeat Batman outright, even after Batman deduces the nature of this alternate reality, which the writer clarified as the moment in which Bruce Wayne cuts loose. So this very accurate future version of Dick Grayson, who happens to be much older than his main self, defeats a going all-out Batman, all while trying to talk down who he believes to just be a crazy version of his mentor. On that note, while fighting this future Dick Grayson, Batman ponders about the real one, stating that he is in awe of the way he fights, how his abilities were instinctual compared to Bruce Wayne, who has to actually put thought into his combat moves. Grayson was born to fight. And when future Nightwing tells Batman to just stay down, Bruce notes that the real Dick Grayson would know that that's not possible, that there's no scenario in which if Bruce Wayne could get up, he won't. This means that, like I showed in my past video, all of these various fights in which Dick Grayson took the W or believed he did win, Bruce admits that Nightwing is fully aware of Batman's limits. So every time Nightwing believes he's beaten Batman or is confident he could do so, that's actually just a totally credible assessment in the words of Batman himself. Either way, what's most relevant to me is that in issue 2, the Dark Knight internally states that he knew Dick Grayson would surpass surpass him from day one. Keep in mind, this is in an actual fight, mid-combat. So that is what this statement would be reflecting. This is massive because, of course, given the nature of serialized fiction, we can apply this information, this insight, into even the golden age or the earliest days of Dick Grayson as Robin. If I didn't make it obvious enough in my first video, Batman took in this kid, trained him, thus to be his successor, and of course that would at least have to mean he saw the potential in Grayson to at least rival, or now we know, just surpass him outright. So when we look back at the various statements saying that Nightwing has never let Batman down, or more impressively, during the period where Dick Grayson was Batman and Bruce was assessing what had happened while he was away, he stated verbatim that in the case of Damian Wayne and Dick Grayson, they each had expectations for their role. However, they have both far surpassed them. So, add 2 and 2 together, this very clearly means that not only did Dick Grayson become a better combatant than Bruce Wayne, but he even exceeded that expectation to do so. Like I said last time, the only way to even attempt to refute this, to try to make Batman look better, would be to, at the same time, downplay his assessment of his pupil's potential and his ability to unlock that potential to train him. So to make Nightwing look bad, to make Batman look good, you'd have to make Batman look bad. Not very logically sound. A little bit before that, in the much maligned and fairly so Hush 2, it's all the same canonical, unfortunately, Batman states that Dick will always be the best member of the Bat family, but he doesn't consciously think or feel that. It's been established by a number of writers and storylines that Nightwing is a humble character. In my opinion, he just tries to be the best Dick Grayson he can, which incidentally happens to be better than Batman. Dark Crisis was a big turning point for the character. Of course, for a large part of his history, he was contending with being in Batman's shadow. Becoming Nightwing, becoming Batman, becoming a better Batman than Bruce Wayne, all added to his confidence, but Joshua Williamson put it plainly that he is finally now fully conversant with his status as a true top-tier hero. But at least in Bruce's opinion, his assessment, that's not something he necessarily believes, which makes sense. He's not arrogant. An area where he has every right to be, however, is his acrobatic agility, which of course informs his fighting style to a great degree and sets him apart from Bruce Wayne. Nightwing is stated point blank to be the best acrobat in the entire DC universe. Think about that for a second. Even compared to people made out of rubber or that possess every single ability of the animal kingdom, no one is more agile than Nightwing. In fact, as soon as Robin came into the picture, he actually made Bruce Wayne the pupil in that area. He taught Batman how to be a better acrobat. Editors of the Batman and Nightwing titles would even say back in the day, answering fan questions, that the Dark Knight would clear the Olympics, get every gold medal, unless he was competing with Nightwing. Which makes sense. He was trained by the absolute best in the world, his parents. The most impressive part about this to me is that this was really before the new age of heroes, the Silver Age that's embodied in the Teen Titans and Justice League. While there were plenty of superpowered heroes before Dick Grayson was born, his ability to carry the torch from his parents and maintain his #1 status for the Flying Graysons, despite the hundreds of metahumans that would come into the picture, it really speaks to his training and willpower, and I think that would influence all of his other aspects as well. He constantly pushes himself to keep up with Batman, to outdo the rest of the Bat family, and even try his hardest to step it up when rivals of Bruce Wayne come into the picture. Combining all of these skills would as well culminate in the greatest spy in the DCU, as showcased in the Grayson era, wherein Nightwing became a secret agent for the organization Spiral. A spy is defined simply as a person who secretly collects and reports information on the activities, movements, and plans of an enemy or competitor. So in this aspect, obtaining information while staying hidden, Nightwing is as well better than the Dark Knight, which of course is backed up by the various feats of sneaking up on superhumans, speedsters, or even Batman himself in Nightwing's case. And while the title of World's Greatest Detective firmly rests on Bruce Wayne's mantle, I still think it's worth analyzing where Nightwing falls by comparison. Given the fact that even in the early days, the first Robin would casually impress Batman, such as with his understanding of Morse code in the last Halloween, his ability to solve strange cases such as the degradation of Bizarro World's gravity before Batman could think of it in World's Finest. And remember, Robin was officially second only to Batman in criminology. He was at the mental peak right next to Bruce Wayne according to the definitive history of The Dark Knight, and even back in the Golden Age it was stated he could outthink specific foes like Two-Face even better than Batman. Keep in mind his number 2 status. Again, this is as Robin, nowhere near his peak. Writers like Scott Snyder have characterized him as a more empathetic thinker than Bruce, and is therefore able to solve certain cases better than Batman. This is foundational to the two characters' core fundamental aspects. Bruce Wayne lost so much humanity facing that tragedy as a young boy, and it is in large part thanks to Batman being an example for the first Robin in a way that Alfred simply never could, that afforded Grayson a stronger tether to his internal humanity. This allows him to connect with people more, understand them. Couple this with the brighter colors of the Robin costume, forcing the young ward to notice details Batman simply wouldn't have to. In many ways, he was in more danger, so he'd have to think differently to survive. Again, this is backed up by Batman himself in Batman and Robin Eternal number 26. But what does this mean for Batman's status as the world's greatest detective? Well, if you ask me, I think it's simply a moniker. Just like how Barry Allen is often called the fastest man alive, even while sharing the mantle of Flash with Wally West, who has been the greater speedster for decades. This is basically confirmed in Detective Comics number 1000, where the likes of Hawkman, The Question, Martian Manhunter, and Detective Chimp are all showcased to be superior. Chimp in particular is called the world's greatest detective by both Nightwing, within more recent Batman stories themselves, and even the latest Wonder Woman storyline. What's interesting about that is it brings into question when Tim Drake or Nightwing, for example, who have been stated by Scott Snyder to be equally as smart as each other, are noted as the second best detective. Does that make them second best to Detective Chimp? Where does that leave Batman? Honestly, we have many characters like Batgirl, Martian Manhunter himself, Ra's al Ghul, for instance, who are all officially noted as having rivaling detective abilities to the Dark Knight. Yet still, multiple sources all attest that Dick is a better detective than these other characters who rival Batman. Overall, when you add all of this together, I think the case is they each have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe Nightwing, while being still supremely impressive, is a hair less analytical than Batman, but he is more empathetic. Honestly, I don't think there's a case, based on all of this, that Batman could solve that Nightwing could not. I think they might go about it differently. They'd probably each struggle with certain aspects that the other crime fighter would treat more easily. And this is evident, as even in Dark Victory, when Dick was just Robin, he actually solved the case that Bruce had been musing over for a long while, just based on his intuition. In Sam Humphrey's Nightwing arc, the character of the Judge was someone who was showcased as back in the day giving Batman the slip. He was a cold case until Nightwing brought him down. Hugo Strange as well is an interesting character, as he's actually considered to be one of the smartest men in the DC universe, according to the 2021 DC book guide. Funnily enough, Batman isn't even in the running. Of course, Nightwing isn't either, but with Batman fully present, Dick outsmarted Hugo Strange in the Night of the Monster Man Rebirth arc and in Gotham Knights number 21. It's been stated that he thinks like Bruce, he is a master detective, and he has many feats of solving a crime before Bruce. On the notion of intellect, I think that parlays directly into their ability to devise various tactics or make countermeasures for various outcomes that these heroes might face. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Nightwing officially knows everything Batman knows and is his most trusted ally to this day. He'd read all of Batman's files on the Justice League members. Even in the current era, we've learned that Clayface, after only a brief stint in the Bat family, was also instructed as to how to defeat the Justice League. Nightwing has simply inherited all of that knowledge, and in fact, he has iterated upon it himself. In the recent Beast World event, we learned that he has his own files detailing how to take down all of the most powerful superheroes. This was as well shown various times in the Nightwing Rebirth run, where multiple different supervillains try to get in his head, with him being considered the Fort Knox of information in this respect. As it's shown, he knows knows the weaknesses for all of the Titans, the Justice League, multiple different Flashes. And speaking of getting into his head, similar to Batman's alternate persona, Zur-En-Arrh, a backup identity devised to resist mental intrusion, Nightwing has his own, but unlike Zur-En-Arrh, which totally backfired and became likely a bigger threat than any villain trying to get into Batman's head, Dick simply partitioned his brain. It's much more benign, but it was still shown as effective, even against the mental intrusion of Raven's dark side. Of course, another important facet of prep time when it comes to Batman are his various power armors, his Justice Busters, if you will. However, again, knowing everything Batman knows, having his full trust and confidence would again by definition mean Nightwing knows how to build whatever Batman does as well. In truth though, the Dark Knight's most powerful armors, he didn't even build them. The Hellbat was a group effort, the entire Justice League contributing to it, and the final Batsuit is from a higher, alternate, more idyllic dimension. While it is true that Nightwing has sported some nebulously detailed power armor in the past, it's really just a matter of preference. In fact, his normal costume is still less armored than Batman's standard Batsuit. He prefers to pack light, despite still, of course, having an arsenal to rival Batman's utility belt. He boasts feats of contending with entire enemy teams or androids with all the powers of the Justice League without needing a power armor in the first place. While Batman is certainly a super genius, there's no doubt about it, it's not like he's solely to thank for every gadget. Obviously, he has his entire company, he has Lucius Fox to help make his designs a reality, and even back in the 90s, you had Harold helping outfit the Batmobile with all of its gizmos. Nightwing is, of course, a master hacker. He has his own Batcaves with different kinds of technology to assist him if the need arises. There really isn't much a distinction here. However, where he really shines is in comparison to raw tactical ability. For an example, did you know Penguin is supposed to be maybe even smarter than Batman in this respect? Albeit blinded by ego, yet still, his ability to plan is officially a match for Bruce's.
Joker can match Batman on crazy, Riddler can match Batman on intelligence, Penguin can match Batman on sort of planning.
That being said, while Dick wore the cape and cowl, his operations were dismantling Penguins to the point of desperation. Two-Face then attempted to leak this information to Dick Grayson as part of this plan, but Nightwing was ahead of them both. Two of the most dangerous and cunning Batman villains, Grayson could actually outthink both of them. Deathstroke, too, is stated to rival Batman in terms of preparation, which I'll put that into perspective. Think of all of Batman's contingencies against other superhumans. His reputation as the Bat God. Deathstroke is either a little worse or possibly even a little better than that, which of course lines up with his performance against multiple Justice League rosters, even including Batman. Nightwing has earned his respect and defeated Deathstroke, as well as overturned his plans, his machinations multiple times over. To make the comparisons super succinct, as the Dark Knight, Dick Grayson was stated to think like Bruce, be the leader and strategist of the JLA, planning missions involving not just that team, but the Justice Society as well, even when Mr. Terrific, possibly the smartest person in the DCU, could have called the shots. He instead deferred to and respected Dick Grayson's leadership. He outsmarted the entire crime syndicate, including Owlman, who is just Bruce's equal outright, possibly just more ruthless. He even got the better of Eclipso, the precursor to the Spectre, aka the Wrath of God, who would consistently play chess with Darkseid, an archetypal evil mastermind of higher dimensional proportions. Remember in my last video when I talked about Batman the Return #1? In that issue, not only is Dick Grayson stated to be stronger and faster, better than Bruce Wayne, but he's also called smarter as well. The most insane, mind-boggling instance of this has to be in the Batman Who Laughs miniseries. That villain is the ultimate embodiment of the Batman always wins ideology. Take his allegedly supreme tactics, combine it with the Joker's ingenious evil, and you get someone who's defeated his entire Bat family, Justice League, every hero, every god of his own reality, and even many more. That's the Batman Who Laughs. He made Bruce Wayne so desperate that he turned to the Joker, who then conceded inferiority authority, in this instance, to James Gordon Jr., a sociopath that the Clown Prince of Crime called the best criminal genius. The only person who could possibly anticipate what the Batman Who Laughs was going to do was easily, immediately recognized and outdone by Dick Grayson's Batman in the Black Mirror storyline. This is a perfect example, in my opinion, to demonstrate how Dick Grayson's mind and Bruce Wayne's mind operate in a distinct way. Because of his empathy, because of what he can recognize about other people, Grayson immediately pegged James Gordon as an evil criminal from the start, putting a tracking device on him and foiling his attempt to kill Barbara Gordon as well as his larger scheme. I don't know what could make it more clear. In more modern events like Beast World, Bruce Wayne as well defers to Dick Grayson's plan to save the entire Earth. This, however, goes hand in hand with Nightwing's leadership skills, which are just, again, no contest, definitively superior to Batman's. Bruce Wayne has a weakness as a leader. He sees other heroes as soldiers and chess pieces. No matter how tactically gifted you are, you can't completely control people. Case in point, Hal Jordan or Oliver Queen. These are other very prideful superheroes who often defect from Batman or fall out of line. Contrast that with Nightwing, who Batman has, again, just flat out admitted he's a better leader, and he was so as soon as he joined the Teen Titans, because he's a people person. I feel like this gets said a lot for almost every superhero team. The X-Men are a family, the Justice Society are a family, the Great Lake Avengers are a family. But for the Titans, this is undeniable. These were all a bunch of kids who had one thing in common. They were all proteges of superheroes, the best ones in the world, and they all spent many years growing up alongside each other, taking in new allies, forming new relationships. They suffered personal losses together, multiple generations, and who is the glue to keep them all together? Who was it that Donna Troy leaned on when faced with the loss of her family? Who was it that Roy Harper called when he needed to save his daughter? It was the heart and soul of the DC universe. Not to mention that, ever since being a kid, he had to forge the Teen Titans into a formidable unit, whereas most of Batman's teams are comprised of measured adults. Another component of leadership is the literal training of other superheroes, where Nightwing as well has been stated to be the best of the best.
But he's running a cross-training gym because he's probably the best trainer in the entire DC universe. I mean, wouldn't you want to be trained by him? I would.
While some might think that's absurd, after all, Batman trained Nightwing himself as well as a small army of other Robins and Batgirls, it is also true that in the case of Jason Todd, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne, Grayson also played and continues to play a heavy role in forging those other heroes. Just look at the Man of Steel trusting his own son with Nightwing's mentorship. This is even true for the entire Bat family, Bruce Wayne recognizing this in the fallout of the Gotham War event, wherein he concedes that Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, those are the true parents of the Bat family, which was already evident. The fact that Batman went out of line and literally the entire Bat family rallied behind Nightwing to bring him in, what does that show you? It shows you that they trust Nightwing more than they trust the Dark Knight. Even events like We Are Robin, where Dick leads the other Robins to train a small army of upstarts, or Batman and Robin Eternal, where Nightwing blatantly leads the other Robins to defeating someone Batman failed to.
The hero that everybody in the DC universe listens to is not necessarily Batman. Most of the time it's Batman, but invariably it's Dick Grayson.
And it's because of who he is. He is the coalescence of the best attributes of Superman and Batman.
He was the kid that so many people grew up with, and then he grew up to become something else, to become something bigger, and to become the best of Batman and the best of Superman and the best of us.
People forget, but the first Robin is a member of World's Finest. He spent years training under both of the best superheroes, making him a tactical genius like Batman, but with Superman's empathy. He impresses people while inspiring them simultaneously. Dark Crisis again showed this, as Dick Grayson led every generation of superhero to defeat Pariah and Deathstroke, all empowered by the Great Darkness, a threat to match the Presence, also known as the ultimate creator of the DC multiverse. After this, the entire Trinity, all three members, gave Dick the mantle of leader of the Justice League. The writer of these events stated that, sure, Nightwing could have just constructed a proper Justice League team, similar to the one that he already successfully led in post-Crisis, but he, as well as the likes of Superman and Green Arrow, knew that the Titans were ready to become the premier team, wherein he led them to defeat Trigon, foil Amanda Waller, Raven's Darkseid. While many people seem to downplay the effectiveness of the Titans in this era, Amanda Waller causing as much chaos as she did was really the Justice League's fault when you think about it. Because after Dark Crisis, their great idea was to just completely disband. They apparently weren't even communicating with each other outside of the rare chance of maybe two members teaming up, which is really weird to me because in the past, when the Justice League was the premier team, you had the Titans and the JSA and every other team potentially to call on. But when the Titans are on the team, the Justice League just decide to basically give up. Even with that said, in the Absolute Power event, it was Nightwing who led every single superhero all over again, finally defeating Amanda Waller once and for all, inspiring great pride in the Dark Knight, which again, we all know what that really means. After this, at this exact moment, because Nightwing is busy in Bloodhaven fighting a multi-dimensional demon, he gave Donna Troy the chance to lead the Titans for a while. In spite of that, not really wanting to be a leader in the very democratic Justice League Unlimited, wherein the Titans, JSA, traditional Justice League lineup are all treated as equals.
We need to remind people that it doesn't mean the Titans are subservient to the Justice League. It doesn't mean the JSA is subservient. We're working together as equals so we can share our resources, so we can pool our power, so we can pool our brain trust.
Grayson is still in the Inner Council, one of the higher-ups that gets to decide the nature of the entire superhero community. And based on the synopsis for later issues, it does seem like Nightwing will be leading the Titans again. This is what Batman wants. The greatest contingency, the greatest achievement that Batman has made, which he can take much of the credit for, is helping to craft this new superhero, his successor, which has surpassed him in all but every way. As it's been stated, if the Dark Knight is proud of one thing, it is Nightwing. And after all, who are we to deprive him of that? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.